Good morning. Thank you for being here today. My name is Casey Moore Gutierrez with the California Transportation Commission, and we are here today for the draft 2026 State Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the STIP, fund estimate and guidelines workshop. I'm going to hand it over to Brandy, and Brandy is going to provide our webinar logistics.
All right, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. As Casey just mentioned, we are in the draft 2026 STIP fund estimate and guidelines workshop. The meeting agenda is located on our website at www.catc.ca.gov. Any document the CTC creates can be translated into any language you need. Simply email us at ctc@catc.ca.gov, and we will have them returned to you as quickly as possible. Live closed captioning is also available. Please select the Show Captions tab at the bottom of your screen. There are a number of language options available there to choose from. Presenters, if you are on the agenda to make a presentation, please do your best to be succinct. Please remember to speak at a steady pace for translating services. And if you are presenting remotely, which I believe we all are, we will hope that you will turn on your camera for the presentation. Members of the public, if you are attending via Zoom, you should see a webinar control panel likely located at the bottom of your screen. And there you will find a raise hand and Q&A feature. We encourage you to use this raise hand feature as early into each item so that the system has time to acknowledge you, and then we can unmute you and call upon you for all of our comments. Alternatively, you may use the Q&A tab to submit your comment or questions, and we can read those on your behalf. And let's see. I don't think we're doing timing, right?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today. We know your time is valuable and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us.
Thank you, Brandy. Okay, so next I'm going to hand it over to the Division of Budgets. I'm going to hand it off to Keith. Hi, Keith.
Good morning, Casey. Hello, everybody. Good morning and happy Tuesday. Thank you for having us. This is Keith Duncan, Caltrans Budgets, and excited to participate on the STIP workshop. As everybody's aware, when it comes to the fund estimate process, we begin prior to the January commission meeting, but the formal process begins at the January commission meeting and progresses at each subsequent commission meeting to the June meeting, which is when we release the draft fund estimate. And then we plan to we've completed many of our updates, and then we do plan to present the final for adoption at the upcoming August meeting. The best part about the workshop is that I get to introduce our two key members of our budgets fund estimate development team. Those of you that participate on CTC meetings, you're aware of Garrett Franklin. He's our office chief over capital and finance, and he's the face when it comes to much of our fund estimate development processes. And then Anthony Espino, he is our Caltrans budgets fund estimate manager. He's responsible for the development of the STIP fund estimate, as well as the SHOP, the aeronautics, as well as the other fund estimates associated with the CTC, such as the active transportation program and the trade corridor enhancement program. So we're excited for this opportunity. And without further ado, I definitely turn it over to both Garrett and Anthony for their more capable hands to share with you the latest update regarding the fund estimate. Anthony, it's all you, bud.
Alrighty, thank you, Keith. Welcome, good morning, and welcome everyone. I am Anthony Espino, your fund estimate manager. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. With the fund estimate overview, what is the fund estimate? It is a 5-year projection of available resources required by the state, prepared biannually, estimate the state's transportation improvement program, and the State Highway Operation and Protection Program, programming capacity. Role of the California Transportation Commission: provides guidance on the fund estimate, adopts the FE in August of each odd-numbered year, adopts a STIP consistent with the fund estimate, and submits STIP by April 1st of each even-numbered year. Next slide, please. The fund estimate methodology. The cash flow methodology starts with the beginning cash balance from the prior fiscal year 24-25. 2026 FE will use the starting cash balance as of July 1st, 2025. That's followed by bringing in or adding in anticipated revenues. Then we're backing out non-program commitments, support, local assistance, maintenance and operations, etc. Following that, we back out existing program commitments. And the existing program commitments, these were determined by working with the various divisions within the department. What falls out at the bottom are resources available for programming for the next 5 years. Next slide, please.
Anthony, can you pause for just a second?
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure, is everybody able to see the presentation that I'm sharing?
We can see it.
Okay, great. My apologies, Anthony.
No problem. Alrighty, gasoline consumption. This graph is a 25-year look of gasoline consumption. As you can see, the more major notable events are the 2000 economic recession. Then you can see the impact of COVID-19 on gasoline consumption levels, up to what we see at the end of the fund estimate at 11.2 billion gallons. The bars within show the annual variance from year to year. Fuel consumption is projected to decline 2.9% over the 5-year period. The decline of gas consumption over the FE period is partly attributable to more fuel-efficient cars, EVs, and hybrids. And in the next slide, I'll show how this relates to gas excise tax revenue. Next slide, please. Impacts to gasoline excise tax revenue. The blue bar, or bars, if you will, reflects the annual change in consumption, which you saw in the previous slide. The gray bar reflects the annual change in inflationary rate adjustments. The orange line represents the annual change in gross gasoline revenue, which are directly impacted by both the change in consumption and the excise tax rate. Overall, gross revenues remain relatively flat despite consumption decline due to the annual inflationary adjustment on excise taxes. Next slide, please. STIP resources. These come by way of the incremental excise tax. SB1 established the incremental excise tax, previously known as the price-based tax. The tax was set at 17.3 per gallon in 2019-20 and is adjusted annually based on the California Consumer Price Index. It's important to know that STIP receives 44% of incremental excise tax net of the weight fee backfill. Furthermore, off to the right, this slide actually shows the year-over-year increase to the incremental tax as a result of the annual inflationary adjustment that I spoke to earlier. Next slide, please. Primary revenues for STIP and SHOP. This bar graph shows total gross revenues, STIP and SHOP, over the FE period, including base year of 2025-26, and is shown with the primary revenues segmented. As referenced in the previous slide, the incremental tax and the relative stability of it is reflected by the turquoise element. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Garrett Franklin.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Garrett Franklin. I'm the Office Chief over Cap and Finance. And as Keith and Anthony so eloquently put, somewhat of the face of this fund estimate cycle. I want to avoid any potential for technology issues. I just want to make sure that you can see the screen that's in front of you with the slides. If somebody could
Yes.
let me know.
Yes, we can see you. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So in addition to the incremental excise tax revenue, a portion of the STIP is funded by the sales tax on diesel that's within the public transportation account. to provide a little bit more detail about the public transportation account, the account receives both diesel sales tax as well as transportation improvement fee revenue over the course of the year. From that, statute derives that funding goes to, a portion goes to state transit assistance, the Transit and Intercity Rail and Capital Program, as well as state rail assistance. What remains after those are made available, it's approximately 22% of the diesel sales tax revenue, and it's first made available to cover Budget Act items and the existing rail and mass transportation program commitments, with the ending balance being resources that are available for STIP programming. This table displays the draft target capacity for both the STIP and for the SHOP. For STIP specifically, the total over the 6-year period is approximately $3.3 billion. This reflects a 4.7 decrease for STIP when compared to the 2024 cycle. Directly underneath that target capacity row is the balance of the 2024 STIP. This has been adjusted upward by approximately $95 million from June. And below that are both the annual difference and the cumulative new capacity below that. New capacity for STIP over the 6 years is approximately $1 billion. The table also includes the same categories for SHOP, with target capacity for SHOP at $27 billion over that same period, and that reflects a 13% reduction compared to the 2024 cycle. So focusing on the 5-year comparison between the 2026 and the 2024 fund estimates, STIP's target capacity is $2.7 billion, which is approximately $155 million less than the 2024 cycle. This is due to slightly lower incremental excise tax revenue and diesel sales tax revenue available for the program. SHOP's target capacity of $21.7 billion is approximately $4 billion less than the 2024 cycle and is due to additional unprogrammed costs from emergencies. And that results in a, oops, sorry. Okay. This slide is providing a comparison of STIP fund estimates beginning with the 2020 cycle. Each block displays target capacity, the then current program, and the difference, which becomes new capacity. If you look down to the bottom of the slide, for the 2026 fund estimate, this is both greater than the 2020 and 2022 cycles and is less than the 2024 cycle. Larger commitments in the latter years of the 2024 program, which is the second to bottom row there in the bottom block, result in new capacity that is just under $1 billion. Specific to the aeronautics account fund estimate, which is technically separate from the STIP fund estimate, but is shared concurrently in the meetings, the commission meetings. Target capacity over the 5-year period is $8 million. And this assumes the annual $1.5 million airport grant program is satisfied as the primary grant. The department will continue to work with commission staff and will update the fund estimates if changes occur before publishing. The proposed fund estimate will be presented to the commission for adoption next month at the August meeting on the 14th or 15th. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so hand it over to Brandy. Brandy, do you see any questions? Hands up.
Not at this time, but I encourage everybody to do so if you need to.
Okay, looks like we're gonna just wait a couple more minutes to see, a couple more seconds, maybe another minute.
And Casey, if anyone gets shy, we will be sticking around the entire workshop. So if anyone has questions
Correct.
afterwards or wants to send an email or give us a call afterwards, we'll be happy to help out then too.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. I'll go ahead and start my PowerPoint then. I am also going to share the fund estimate table. So let me get that started here. Let's see. It's not easy to see with
It's.
yeah, when it's can't see my views. Oh, you can
here
see it.
too.
Oh, great. Okay, well, I need to get it in views and like blocking.
Oh, you can move that. You just click somewhere on it, click, hold and drag.
Oh, there we go. Okay, and then Carl is raising his hand or has a question. There we go. Thank you, Brandy.
You're welcome, funny. I don't have it.
Okay, how does this look for everyone?
Good.
Okay.
All right.
You
We do have a question also, from Ben, who, do you anticipate the draft fund estimate to change from the final fund estimate?
That's a good question. I'm gonna I'm gonna hand that question over to Garrett or Anthony.
Yeah, so there's always the potential for a change between draft and final. The final will encompass elements such as the fiscal year beginning balance, changes that may occur due to the enacted budget and or any sort of trailer bill that is signed prior to the August meeting, as well as the potential for minor adjustments for elements such as the interest rate for the interest-bearing accounts and things of that nature. But those changes are identified and basically shared as part of that August meeting.
Any other questions?
I've unmuted Carl, so Carl, if you have a question.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Sorry. Thank you, Casey and Caltrans staff. I appreciate you walking us through the fund estimate piece. I noticed it was a little bit different than what was published in June. And so I was curious if we were going to see a new fund estimate draft sometime in the coming weeks, or if we're going to just wait until the August CTC meeting to see what that final version is going to look like.
I will go ahead and share the tables after our workshop. Yeah,
All right,
those will be available and then yeah, they'll be available for the August commission meeting as a final.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that question.
And I think that's all for now.
Okay. It's only 10:20. We're doing pretty good on time. Okay. I will go ahead and get started. So again, my name is Casey, and I am the STIP program manager here at the California Transportation Commission. And I am going to proceed with the next slide. There we go. Okay, so today's discussion, since the fund estimate has been revised, that means program capacity changes. So I'm going to go over some of the same tables that the Caltrans team covered. Because capacity has changed, our shared distribution has changed. So we'll go over that. There are a couple minor changes to the draft guidelines based off the previous workshop on May 5th. So we'll just continue those discussions. Then we'll go into the 2026 STIP timeline. This includes the ITIP hearing and the CTC hearings. Then a couple RTIP reminders. And finally, we'll end with questions and comments. Any questions before I move forward? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to need some participation, please. And by participating, if you can just raise your hand when I ask, I'm going to look for how many people are familiar with the actual fund estimate table. If you can raise your hand, how many of you are familiar with the fund estimate table?
One.
So a lot of hands. Good. Thank you. Everyone
Oh.
participating and they're listening. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay. The next question is How many of you understand what you're looking at when you look at the fund estimate table? Awesome. Wow, okay, that makes me really happy, to be honest. Carl, is your hand still up? Okay. It's not, okay. Okay, so I created a little legend over here just for those of you who are not too familiar or comfortable with the fund estimate. The legend up here on the top right corner, can you see my mouse when I move it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so here's the legend, and we can see here, so this light blue color is right along here. This is capacity. So this is the capacity that's available for PTA. We can actually, let me start all over. This is the public transportation account section. And then this is the state highway account section down here, following my mouse. And then the blue section right here is your capacity for PTA. Down here is your capacity for SHA. We come down here to committed projects, which is the green row. So these are your committed projects for PTA within the STIP. Down here, committed projects in the STIP, SHA. When we go to the next color, which is a salmon color, net new capacity. So again, if we look at the PTA section, our net capacity, which means this is our cash, this is our commitment, and you can see here in 25-26, our net new capacity is negative 37 million. And then if we go down here to SHA, we have the same situation. We have our capacity, we have our programmed amount, and then we have our net new capacity. And then if we come down here at the very bottom, our total capacity, including PTA and SHA, is down here at the bottom. So our 6 years overall capacity is 952 million. Jose Luis, go. You have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, this is going great so far. If you could just, even for one column, hit all of the rows, extensions and advances. I should know how those affect the dollar amount, but love to hear you describe it.
Yeah, I can go into detail, and I appreciate you bringing that up because this particular slide is needed because I really want to help you guys understand what we're looking at. And as we dive into the individual fiscal years, I really want you guys to understand how these negative numbers affect our future STIP cycles. So sure. So if we look here in column 25-26, I'm just going to dive right down into the SHA section because there's bigger numbers and a lot more going on. So if we're looking at 25-26 column under the state highway account, budgets has informed us that we have 525 million in SHA cash available capacity. If we go down to this section here, this is where the STIP team will identify what is currently programmed in the 2024 STIP in fiscal year 25-26. This is also showing you extensions. So these are all of the extensions from past fiscal years that have been approved and are expected to allocate in 25-26. So that's 134 million in extensions. And then advances, this is just telling us that there was 40 million in projects or a project that was programmed in that year. And we're taking it out because it allocated earlier than the fiscal year it's in. So then we take the 525 in capacity. We take our overall STIP commitment, which is the 621 right here in 25-26. Which leaves us a balance of negative 96 million for this fiscal year SHA alone. If we come down here to the very bottom row, this is telling us that cumulatively PTA and SHA, we are starting this fiscal year negative 133 million.
Okay.
Does that help, Jose Luis? Is that?
Yeah, so I'm
Okay.
almost getting there. Let me ask like a follow-up.
Sure.
So the SHA capacity for county shares, the salmon, for 25-26 says it's -96. And cumulatively, it says it's -96. So that means some of the line above here, there's a 0 to get it to -96. But it's cumulative. What gets added? Like I'm looking above in the 25-6, is it cumulative of a PTA? Or what?
96 plus 37.
Okay, so sorry. Then let's go over to the 26-27. The SHA capacity is 44, but then the cumulative is 52. I guess I'm trying to figure out what are
Are you trying to figure this out here?
I'm trying to figure out the difference between salmon, 44, and then right below salmon, -52 cumulative.
96 plus
What
40.
what accumulates? What are we doing?
Oh, it's the 96 plus the 44.
Oh,
It's
they add up
cumulative.
left to right.
It's cumulative.
Oh, sorry, cumulative left to right. So as
Yes.
years go up, the money
Yeah.
goes up or goes down.
Correct.
Thank you. All right.
Correct. Yeah, and then
That would explain why year one, the cumulative is identical because it hasn't accumulated. All right. Okay. I learned something new today.
cool.
Thank you.
Well, that was the whole purpose of going through this. So that makes me really excited, Jose Luis. Thank you for speaking up. Okay, so thank you. Okay, let me get redirected here. Okay, so going back to this, in general, overall, as the budgets team mentioned, we are the draft fund estimate has reduced slightly since it was presented in June. We have 952 million over the 6-year period. As we all know, the STIP is a 5-year program. So why are we looking at 6 years? Well, we need to account for our current year in order to determine where we are for the STIP. And in this case here, we can see that our total capacity in our current year is negative 133 million. So that means we have to take that off the top. And that's where this 6-year comes in, the 952. Otherwise, if we were looking at columns 26, 27 through 30, 31, down at the very bottom, this cumulative section, this 5-year period is the STIP itself. But again, because we are over 133 million this fiscal year, it's taken off the top, significantly affecting what we have available in the STIP itself. I want to quickly jump over to the 2024 STIP fund estimate. I'm really excited that the budgets team shared a visual of past fund estimates. I'm going to kind of do the same thing. So again, let's take a look here. I want us to focus on fiscal year 25-26 right here in this column. Going all the way down, we want to look at our total cumulative. So negative 133 million. Again, we want to focus on 25-26. Now this is a 24 STIP fund estimate. You can see I'm focusing on 25-26, right? 235 million. I want to point out our available capacity is 1.6 billion. I also want to note where we are in our prior year. So during the 2024 STIP period, we were only negative 44 million in the prior year. So our capacity for the 2024 STIP, we were very fortunate to have sufficient capacity. But as we lead into the 2026 STIP, 25-26 is telling us a lot. It's telling us that we have a lot of extensions. Actually, we had a lot of extensions last time too. We have less extensions, but we have a lot of time extensions that are happening. We have a lot of cost increases, and we're getting a lot of agencies requesting to program beyond their shares and requesting a lot more flexibility. And I wanted to mention this because as some of you have probably recognized, I've been really trying to cut back on, oops, I just changed that on accident. I apologize. I really want to emphasize where we are capacity wise, because I've really been pushing back on the regions when it comes to allowing additional like greater than 120s coming in. And it's because of where we are fiscally. I'm going to pause for a second because I love to talk about the STIP. So I'm going to pause for a second. I want to make sure everyone's paying attention, but I also want you guys to kind of, if you can just mention in the chat, are you guys following what I'm saying? Do you have anything you want me to cover? I want to make sure I'm.
Jose Luis.
Go ahead, Jose Luis.
Okay, so I'm only saying this because I think it helps with the conversation.
Yeah.
But it's a slightly contrarian point. Actually, I invite you to tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong. Just kidding.
When you look at the extensions,
Yeah.
it doesn't follow that extensions negatively affect the fund estimate, because an extension is really a project that didn't allocate. If it had allocated, it would also have affected the fund estimate the same way. We would have less money. The only way a project could have helped the fund estimate would be if it was deleted or something. Or I guess extended into oblivion, which is like being deleted. But I don't think extensions are what affects our fund estimate. I think it's advances maybe, right? Isn't that correct?
I would say advances are a good thing because advances will bring your commitments down for that fiscal year.
Wait,
Right. So,
advances to 25-26 are a negative, but they're a delayed negative, right? So
well, so the negative 40 million in 25-26, that means there was a project. I mean, I'm just going to say one project. I don't know if that's what it was, but just, ease of conversation. There was one project programmed in fiscal year 25-26 that we have now removed and is no longer a part of the capacity because it allocated earlier in a fiscal year, which means it benefits the STIP because it's putting 40 million back, I guess, in capacity that was used up earlier in a fiscal year.
The advance is not the future.
is that true? Like, I mean, I would think, like, let's pretend that advance was in 27-28. That might be one of the reasons why we don't have as much money in.
So this advance happened in so the project was programmed in fiscal year 25-26. It's no longer a commitment in fiscal year 25-26.
So a negative creates capacity? No.
Well, you have your extension. You have $134 million in projects that were programmed in prior years. And now we're taking those projects and saying, hey, we accounted for this project to hit program capacity in say 24-25, but it's no longer hitting capacity. So we need to account for it in 25-26 because that's when it matters.
Okay, so I guess I'm revising my point to say, I don't think extensions and advances really do much for the fund estimate other than kind of change which years go up or go down. I mean, right,
So
they're already allocated, or they're already programmed projects from the last STIP, and they're just kind of bumping up.
So I disagree. And I think that this actually gives us a good representation on how it affects the fund estimate. Because of these extensions, our commitments have gone higher. And because our commitments have gone higher, and that's causing our current year commitments to go higher, which then causes us to take more off the top of the fund estimate. So it does affect the fund estimate because we would have a billion, let's see that this is in the way. We would have $1.085 billion, but because of the extensions and advances, everything going on within the STIP programming itself, we now have less, 952 million, right? It's
I guess
off the top.
I guess the point is that extension, let's pretend it was a $134 million project that got extended. If it had actually allocated back in 23-24 or something, you would just have, wait, wouldn't it come out of a deduction somewhere or no?
So every cycle, the fund estimate, right? That's the whole process of the fund estimate is to reconcile,
Uh-huh.
right? So we're reconciling, we're constantly reconciling.
Huh. Okay, you know what? I guess I'm still not fully understanding this, but
Okay.
I appreciate the chance to interact.
Yeah, and actually, I'd be happy to meet with you offline to explain further.
I think I'll take you up on it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Michael Villa.
Okay, go ahead.
And we have a
Okay. Go ahead, Michael Villa.
Hey, Casey. So looking at like the 25-26, so the 2024 STIP program, there's 527 million. Extensions are 134 from past STIP cycles, correct?
Correct.
And then the advances are 40 million, and those are for funds that were to be allocated in 25-26, but were just allocated earlier.
Correct.
So that just kind of shows a more accurate representation of how much is in the current 25-26 STIP, right? Like that fiscal
Exactly.
year.
Exactly.
And it's the same with the 26-27, 27-28, 28-29.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, you're very welcome. You've got it. And then we had a question.
Yes, from Shauna Gauss. She asked, are you considering not allowing programming beyond share capacity to help manage the extensions and advances?
That's a really good question. So statute says that with the fund estimate process, we are to we're to program to the fund estimate. So at this point, no, yes and no. I'm thinking of how I want to respond here. Sorry. So when RTIPs come in, I am going to program to the fund estimate. So for 26-27, I am going to program to 32 million. But this is where I really need your guys' help. With fiscal year 25-26 starting at negative 133 million, we still have this entire fiscal year to go through, which means we are going to anticipate supplementals greater than 120s, cost increases, and just there's significant cost increases going on everywhere around the world, right? So with the cost increases that we're already expecting, and looking at, again, I'm gonna jump to the 24 STIP where we only expended 44 million. We're at 133 million. Year one is showing we only have 32 million. That's not a lot of money. I don't even know if that's enough money to cover cost increases for projects that are committed in 26-27. I'm also significantly concerned that by the time we end 25-26 fiscal year, we would have already have utilized the capacity in the next 3 years, if not more. 27, referring to fiscal years 26-27 and 28-29, since there's nothing left or there's no capacity in the second year of the STIP. So I hope that answers your question. I can't deny time extensions per se. I mean, I can't deny a project moving forward. I would just say that the best way to probably manage the STIP itself this upcoming cycle is I really need the regions to you know, look for local funds first before seeking funds from the state. And yeah, just try to be cognizant of just realizing that the STIP itself, you know, while last cycle we had 1.6 billion, this cycle, you know, there's a decline in revenue, it's obvious. And I'm just really concerned that with how much we continue to borrow from future STIPs, there may not be sufficient capacity left to have future STIPs. And I would love to try to get ahead of that and plan for it rather than have to react and have an allocation plan. So I can't do that alone. I need your guys' help.
Do have another question before
Yep.
the dailies. Okay, Anonymous asks, at some point during this meeting, could you please explain the add back lapses in the 2025 STIP share? Are we no longer using these funds? If so, are they to be dedicated to the original program project? Thank you.
Yep. So I'm gonna actually, if everyone is okay with it, I'm gonna move on to the next slide, and that's where I talk about shares. I'll talk about share periods and whatnot. And I think that'll answer your question. And if it doesn't, please let me know, and I'll make sure that I answer it for you. Any other questions before I proceed to the next slide? Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, so this is the revised draft summary of targets and shares. This is essentially just saying because the draft fund estimate was adjusted, that automatically means that the share distribution is adjusted. So this is the first time everyone has seen this, but all of your shares have been adjusted to match the total target, which means if we look at our fund estimate, we know that we have 952 million available. Therefore, if each region programs to their total target, we have sufficient capacity to meet all regions' needs. When we look at the maximum, regions do also have the opportunity to program to their max. The max is, what the max means is you're borrowing from future shares, and the max generally happens when another region hasn't utilized their own shares, leaving sufficient capacity for other regions to program beyond their shares. Any questions on this slide before I move to the next?
Not seeing any right.
Okay. I'm actually going to have everyone raise their hand, and if you can let me know how many of you are familiar with what those columns mean, the total target and the maximum. So raise your hand if you understand what those mean. Okay, that makes me really happy. Okay, there's a lot of people. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so next we're going to cover PPM. So because again, your share distribution has been revised because the draft fund estimate was revised. This is our draft PPM. I'm going to dive into this more on the next slide, but I want to point out here that your PPM, planning, programming, and monitoring, it's in statute. So statute says that of the shares that you receive, up to 5% of those shares can be used for PPM. It's not 5% of additional shares, it's 5% of the shares that you received through the formula distribution. And then I want to highlight this note down here at the bottom. It just says that limitation amounts include amounts already programmed. And that's where I'm going to dive into a little bit more details on the next slide. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Okay. So this case, I use Monterey as an example. So if we start up here with this first large table that says Monterey, this is the 2024 Orange Book, which can be found on the Commission's website. If you go to your region and you locate the 2024 Orange Book and go to the 28-29 column, this is going to tell you what you already have programmed for PPM. Okay, so then if you look at the draft fund estimate, table 5, which is what we were just looking at, this is what provides you with your PPM distribution. Monterey has 593 million. Now, thousand. And we can see down here that it accounts for the 2024 STIP, fiscal year 28-29. We also have the 2026 STIP, fiscal years 28-29 through 30-31. And then we have a total of these two. 5 plus 6 is the 11.8. 5% of that is 593. Now, because Monterey already has their 5% committed from the 2024 STIP, what we want to do is take we're going to look at this here, 593,000, which is their PPM available for the 2026 STIP distribution, minus what they already have programmed in the 2024 Orange Book, leaving them with 340,000 in new PPM capacity. And those are specific to 28-29 and 30 through 30-31 fiscal years. I'll pause here for a moment and check to see if there's any questions. I will also say that this will be posted online. I get a lot of questions about PPM and how it's calculated. So this will be available online. And if you have any further questions, please just shoot me an email and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No hands or questions right
Perfect.
now.
Okay. How many of you have seen this slide before, the STIP share periods? Raise your hand, please, if you're familiar with it. Okay. Okay. I'm honestly not going to dive too much into this, but I want to explain what it is, why it's used, and how it correlates with the tables that are in the fund estimate. So this explains this. I'm going to point down here at the legend. Our legend shows the yellow items are considered our minimum, the blue is our target, and the salmon is our max. So we're going to come right over here to all of this, the green columns. This is the 2026 STIP, 5 years, 26, 27 through 3031. Now we're going to come to over here to the 2026 row, and I'm going to come all the way over until I get to the 2026 STIP fiscal years. We have yellow here, which we know is the minimum, also known as our base. The base is the minimum or base amount of shares that that falls within that STIP cycle. For the 2026 STIP, the minimum or the base was actually negative, so we don't have a base for the 2026 STIP. We do, however, have a target. The target here is in blue, and it covers 3 years. So it covers 28, 29 through 3031. Okay, that matters because I'm going to come back to the fund estimate, or not the fund estimate, the PPM. So remember, our target here in blue is 28, 29 through 3031. Jumping over here, we can see that our PPM for this cycle, because that is our target for this share period and this STIP cycle, fiscal years 28, 29 through 3031. If I come over here to our standard target, these are shares through 3031. Now, if we look at the maximum, it says 3132. Jumping here, this does not mention 3132. There's a reason for that. Going over here to the STIP, 3132. That's a max. We're not focused on the max. We're focused on our target. So I know that wasn't a lot of detail, but I just raise your hand or let me know if you have any questions, but I wanted you to know that the fiscal years in which are identified in the tables 2, 3, 4, and 5, they are all associated with the STIP share periods. And again, the STIP is a statutorily driven program, so all of this is just driven by statute. Any questions?
There was a question if is the 5% PPM, is that in statute?
It is.
Sorry.
Yeah. Did everyone hear that question? I wanted to make sure Lori asked if the 5% in PPM is in statute, and it is.
Another question.
Okay, we'll go with the question first, and then Jose Luis, I'll call you after the question.
What does it mean if we don't have a minimum in the first 2 years? We can't program new projects? Question.
No, that's a really good question. So I would say that no. So if there's a negative base, that just means that when we go to calculate the share distribution, we can't account for a base because we know that there's sufficient capacity to support new projects. So we just eliminate the base and we focus on the target and the max. So there's really no impact. And then I'll hand it off to Jose Luis.
Yeah, my question was similar. Seeing the answers, I still get to program PPM each year, but it sounded like I can't program minimum PPM in 26, 27, and 27, 28 because there's no minimum.
No, so actually, that's a very good point. So because so actually, I'll just say that, our target, we're always focused on our target, especially when it comes to PPM. So whether there's a base or not, you're always getting your new capacity. So I'll say that even regions who don't have any shares or negative in shares, they still have an opportunity to collect PPM.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, Vanessa, go ahead.
Let me unmute her.
Oh, sorry, you're not unmuted.
Okay.
I'm moving too fast.
So sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. This is Vanessa with BCTC. So this may be stating the obvious, but so I'm assuming that we programmed the existing PPM that's currently in the 2024 STIP. We leave that the same for 27 and 28, correct?
You do, yeah, you leave it the same. You can, yeah, you can, yes.
Okay.
Yes, leave it the same.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Yeah.
Great, okay. Next slide, we're getting into the fun stuff now. More fun stuff. Okay, so draft 2026 STIP guideline, proposed changes.
We did a last minute hand, so I
Okay.
don't know if it's for the previous
Okay.
information from Justine.
Okay. Hi, Justine. Is she unmuted? Okay, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Hi. Justine from Inyo. So bouncing off Vanessa's last question, and going back to that Monterey slide that you showed. So does this mean that for 26, 27, and 27, 28, we leave our PPM the way we programmed in 2024?
So 26, 27, and 27, 28, we don't want to touch those for the 26 STIP. Those shares have already been accounted for. So we just want to focus on 28, 29. Now, your overall goal is just to ensure, this is kind of why I paused when Vanessa said, so 28, 29 needs to remain as is. It can. The overall goal is just make sure that when you're programming your PPM, fiscal years 28, 29 through 30, 31, total 593.
Okay. So we can be a little flexible as long as we don't exceed that total.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Now, it could vary for each region depending on what they programmed, because not everyone programs PPM, not everyone programs up to their 5%. So right now, Monterey has programmed 5%. So this 50, 67, and 253, this is 5% of this. But again, as long as your 28, 29 through 30, 31 do not exceed 593, everyone's safe. Okay, any more questions before I proceed to the proposed changes for the draft guidelines? Okay. Before I cover this section, I want to explain, I'm going to ask you to use your hands again, please. I like getting everyone engaged. There are two sections of the STIP guidelines. There's a section called the specific guidelines to the STIP, and then there's a section called the permanent guidelines. Though they are consolidated into one STIP guideline, but I'm just curious if you could raise your hand if you knew that there was two split sections of the guidelines. Okay. Okay, thank you. So there is a specific section to the guidelines, and the specific section to the guidelines is always going to be the very front of the guidelines. That is where we have the STIP timeline. That's where we talk about how much funding is available or how much capacity is available for this particular STIP. And then the permanent section leads with the table of contents. So I wanted to mention that first because this particular slide here, this is specific to the specific guidelines, not the permanent guidelines. In these specific guidelines and over the past few cycles, section, Is that my computer?
No, mine did something too, but I didn't catch it in time.
Okay. So in the specific guidelines, which are updated and modified every cycle, is an uncommitted funding section. So within the uncommitted funding section, we have, and I'm not sure how visible this is for you, but we have a bold and underlined section, which is all new language. And then anything that's not bold and underlined is existing language. Actually, I think so if we come here and we look at the uncommitted funding section, going from the draft guidelines to where we are now, I've made a slight modification. Initially, in the May 5th workshop, I believe the regions asked that we add the federal discretionary programs to the uncommitted funding section. And we're going to keep it in here, but instead of lumping it in with the SB1 language, I've created its own section, trying to create its own parameters. So what we can see up here is this is standard language. Up here, I am removing and federal discretionary programs because I am then creating this section here. So I want to pause for a moment. I want everyone to take the time to read this language. And then we can start conversations. Okay. I'm going to read it off really quick. I think I gave everyone enough time to read it, but I'll go ahead and read it as well. This is the language we are proposing. The commission will also accept projects with uncommitted funds from federal discretionary programs. The agency must provide a plan to secure the funding commitment, explain the risk of not securing that commitment, and include a contingency plan to secure alternative funding should the commitment not be obtained. If a project with uncommitted federal discretionary funds is programmed, all funding commitments must be secured 6 months prior to the July 1 of the year in which the project is programmed. Or the project will be deleted from the STIP. The commission will not accept alternative fund sources that will delay the project's phase within the STIP. It is a responsibility of the regions to keep the commission informed when a project is unsuccessful in securing funds and other funding sources are being pursued. Okay, so is he unmuted? Okay, Rich, go ahead.
Casey, hi. Sorry, I've been multitasking this morning. I just came in and I saw this slide up on my screen, so I thought I'd try to zero in. So maybe, do you need to be more explicit in terms of what happens should you be forced to delete a project from the STIP in the case of projects that are in in a peculiar fiscal year where the monies will not return until a future STIP share is produced? Because I think, I don't know, I'm just trying to get to the issue that we found ourselves in, Casey, and if there's an early communication that can occur between a regional agency and the commission when a discretionary grant isn't received, and although there may be a plan on what to do, should we not secure one of these discretionary grants, just in terms of good partnership, how we can have early communication so that if there's a chance to preserve the monies that we identify in the STIP to match one of these discretionary grants, that they can either be amended timely as opposed to missing an amendment opportunity, or something to that effect. And I know that this isn't what maybe this section is intended to show, but I just want to put that out there with respect to not having funds deleted, but perhaps reprogrammed and or amended into an active STIP?
Yeah. No, I think that was a really good question, Rich. And I really had I had some really good brainstorming sessions with some peers over here on the commission side, trying to figure out the best way to incorporate the federal discretionary language into the guidelines without it. But I was trying to be honest, I was trying to be consistent with SB1, and I realized that I actually have a typo in the PowerPoint. I don't want the word July 1 in there. I want it to say all funding commitments must be secured 6 months prior to the year in which the project is programmed. And it's for that very reason, Rich. I was trying to be consistent with SB1's language initially. SB1's language says that the federal discretionary funds must be committed by July 1 of the year in which the project is programmed. But because the STIP is so statutorily restricted, if I was consistent, if we choose to be consistent with SB1, that'll end up leaving, say, projects in the first year of a brand new STIP hanging, like we mentioned. And we don't want to do that. That would mean that if a project is not successful and they're not successful by July 1, let's just say July 1 of our current fiscal year 25-26. Well, if that project is programmed right now in the STIP, we don't have a way to modify that project. So that project is going to have to sit in the STIP for a whole year and then lapse. And then depending on when the next STIP cycle is, those lapsed shares will be returned to you. So those shares may end up, that project may end up sitting for a year, and then those shares are kind of on hold for about 1.5 years. So the goal with this language is to have the funds secured. The language is actually making it to where the funds have to be secured no later than December. December is when your RTIPs come in. So depending on when your project is programmed, if you have the project, let's see, if you find out by December, the year before your fiscal year, your project is programmed, that means that you have 6 months to identify another fund source. If you're not able to find another fund source, that gives us time to prepare STIP amendments to modify those projects in that upcoming year, rather than having those projects sit. It also provides an opportunity for projects that are in the second year of the STIP. Well, I should say, yeah, second year of the STIP could be modified in the RTIP. So I was really trying to time it so that projects aren't falling into the situation as your project kind of did recently, Rich. Go ahead, Rich.
Oh, am I still on mute? Sorry about that. So if, in the case of the pursuit of federal grants, since we've now included the language and specifically calling out federal discretionary programs, those are annual grant programs. So to some extent, they're by being forced to where at one point it's acknowledged that a STIP contribution to an SB1 grant has value and gets programmed as such. And if unsuccessful, and then within 6 months being forced to deprogram it or have it deleted, then limits the regional agency's ability to still use those state funds to try to leverage a federal discretionary grant that happens on an annual cycle. So it kind of it jams up the strategy of pursuing discretionary grants, be it state or federal, as often as possible if those resources are removed from the STIP.
Do you have any other suggestions? Yeah, if you have any other suggestions on language, I'd be happy to hear your.
Yeah, I don't at the moment.
Okay, yeah, I had a really difficult time, and that's why I'm bringing the language here. I had a really difficult time just because of statute and all of the limitations that STIP has, trying to find the right way to fit federal discretionary within the STIP with its parameters. And I really tried to think of a way to prevent really projects just sitting there. Our goal is to deliver the projects, right? And our goal is to not have your projects sit there for a year. Go ahead, Jose Luis. Oh, wait, are you unmuted? I should let you handle that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I never muted him back. 'Cause he muted.
Oh, got it.
Wait,
He can go.
he added himself again, that's why.
Sorry, this is my other device. I have a couple suggestions that might work. I'd like to hear if they work okay for you guys. So one is, it's the year in which you're programmed. So Rich, if you just program your discretionary funds and STIP funds, like one of the last 2 years of the STIP, which is probably what you're all gonna have to do, then it's 6 months before one of those last 2 years of the STIP. I would think you're gonna be okay. Does that strategy work
For me,
for anyone?
it works for me. No,
What about you, Rich? Was your plan to put discretionary funds in like
Well,
year
we're
one?
certainly gonna do that again, but we have current year, we had a cycle 4 application with STIP monies programmed in 25, 26.
Okay,
And we don't have any access to those monies, and we want to go out to a federal grant in May. And we really could have used that money that we had programmed in the 25, 26 year to match or try to leverage a federal grant. So that's more near-term issues that we're faced with.
yeah.
okay. I
just
was thinking
trying to
about, oh, go ahead.
And just trying to think of that situation, Rich, you're actually in a situation, if your project is programmed in 25, 26, you are in that situation where, because the project is in current year and you weren't successful with SB1, yeah, you need to you have 6 months to locate a new fund source. Otherwise the project is deleted from the STIP. Just because it's in current fiscal year. And that's the challenge with going with the, I would say a first fiscal year project within an SB1 program is that it ends up hitting the year prior to a STIP cycle.
Right.
Be a little.
You got to know it's a winner if you're going to ask for first year SB1 money.
Yeah, and maybe that's a takeaway from this is, don't put proposed, grant recipient projects in year one. Put only those that have awarded and save the other years for projects where you're still going after grant funds.
Right. That is the takeaway.
Sorry, and I'm trying to think. I think that might be the takeaway. The first 2 years for everyone, I would not put your project in the first 2 years unless you got those discretionary grants or you have a really simple plan B. Like maybe your discretionary grant was a $1 million project. If you don't get the 1 million, you have other places to get 1 million from.
Right.
All right, I had a second solution. The second solution was you could pick the later discretionary fund source as like if you're thinking you'd be going after a couple different options like TSEP or infra, pick the one that's on the slower schedule as being your discretionary fund source. But in your example, man, you're in the year. If you don't have it this year, then your project is deleted, right?
Rich's, yes. Yeah, it's just because it's in current fiscal year.
Okay. Those are my only suggestions for everyone else programming in the next step.
Appreciate that. Any other questions, comments, concerns with this proposed language?
One more hand, Vanessa just raised her and
Okay.
she should be able to unmute herself.
Okay, Vanessa, you should be able to unmute yourself when you're ready.
Oh, I see it. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. This is a little bit different than the draft language that we saw earlier. I had proposed some language that was inserted in the first version of the first paragraph, where after the phrase adoption of the next programming cycle for the applicable programming year for these programs, that was added in there. And the whole reason for that was to avoid the situation, let's say that I program funding in 3031, but the next SB1 cycle only covers, let's see, would it be 27, 28, 28, 29? Or 28, 29?
Yeah, 27, 28, and 28.
Yeah. So with that phrase, wouldn't that mean that my project would be deleted because it says the next programming cycle, but does not identify that the programming cycle needs to cover the appropriate programming year? Does that make sense?
No, can you repeat that, please? And you're referring specifically to the SB1 side and not the federal side?
Well, I mean, the federal side now is in a separate paragraph, so that's why I'm kind of zeroing in on the first paragraph.
Got it. So the reason we can't keep the concern with the federal discretionary programs being lumped in with the SB1 language is simply because, hold on, let me read it again. Okay, so the reason why the language isn't in there is because, oh my God, I'm trying to remember why, and I'm like blanking right now. There was a significant issue with statute. Okay, so it says, can you repeat the language one more time, Vanessa? I need to write it down. I have my visual. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just, it was basically just adding that when you're referring to adoption of the next programming cycle, that programming cycle, you're referring to the programming cycle that's specific to the year that the project is programmed, because then otherwise projects will be getting deleted when the cycle that was just awarded didn't even cover that programming year. Because STIP is a 5-year cycle versus the SB1 programs being 2-year cycles.
Yeah, and I guess maybe I'm not following because the intention of this language is just to say so the SB1 program just had their 24 cycle, right? And their 24 cycle 2024 program just had fiscal years 25, 26, and 26, 27. So when we were working on the 24 STIP, we were focused on, whatever was coming forward. So like, let me see here. So for the 2026 RTIP, it could include projects that were successful with SB1, right? Or you could propose new projects that have not been awarded SB1, but you anticipate seeking SB1 funds in their next cycle for their 25 program, which would be 27, 28, and 28, 29.
Yes, but what if I propose a project that is also going to seek SB1 funding, but not until the following cycle that covers years 29, 30, and 31?
So, and that's where, and maybe this is where you're asking me to make it more clear. This says if the uncommitted funds are not secured with the adoption of the next programming cycle of these programs.
Yes, because the next programming cycle won't cover 29, 30, and 31.
Right, which means I guess it's so you would automatically be programming projects only for 27, 28, and 28, 29 in the 26 STIP.
So I'm sorry, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Are you saying that I can't use, for example, SECP on my project as an uncommitted fund source in 30 and 31?
No. No, and actually, Vanessa, now that you're mentioning this, I do recall a situation, yes, where this happened, where, I'm trying not to call out agencies, but where an agency did attempt to program a project from a future cycle, and we ended up removing it from the RTIP because, not the RTIP, but we'd let them know that they couldn't propose that project because it wasn't fully funded. So yes, that particular project, if it's beyond the next SB1 cycle, which would be the 25 program, which is fiscal years 27, 28, and 28, 29, those projects are not eligible.
Okay, so I think if that's the, well, first of all, can you explain why? And second of all, if that's the case, can that be added somewhere? Because I think that's kind of an important fact to know.
This is Rich. That would be a problem because if the new capacity that we're getting is all in the last 2 years, which we all accept, and we present a funding profile to you with our STIP money, that is leverage monies, match money, whatever you want to call it, against the SB1 cycle 5 ask, which is a 7-8 or an 8-9. We understood it to be practice by the CTC. If the project has merit and it's awarded an SB1, you'll just go ahead and advance the STIP share or the STIP programmed amount to meet the SB1 allocation timeline.
Well, so SB1 projects are a priority in the STIP when we're adopting a new STIP cycle, right? But the timing of your project is going to take priority. So if you are putting a project into the STIP right now that was just awarded SB1 funds, that's definitely going to be priority, right? Because those projects are going to be the projects that need to hit the first 2 years of the STIP. Well, current year and then the first year of the STIP, I should say. Versus I get what you're saying about the 27, 20, about the next programming cycle. There's no changes to the language. There's this language has always been there. So yeah, I mean,
I guess in the comment under the uncommitted funds section of the EPPR would say cycle 5 and cycle 6. If unsuccessful in cycle 5, then we would say we'll pursue cycle 6 as well. That would be the fallback plan and or other federal discretionary programs. You would, in that case, you would not force us to reprogram 30-31 monies if we're unsuccessful in a cycle 5 grant application, because our plan is to go back in cycle 6 is to pursue federal discretionary grants.
Yeah, so the overall goal is to not have projects that are uncommitted sitting parked in the STIP. And that's the whole goal behind not having projects programmed in the STIP that aren't committed. And so the flexibility here in the uncommitted funding section for SB1 was strictly because we were trying to manage the program capacity and trying to align, those 2 cycles. It's difficult. And so in that case, the goal of that was strictly, having projects remaining committed in the STIP so that we can assure that they're delivered.
So then our RTIPs are presenting new capacity, even though the money's in the last 2 years. If we're certain it's a very capable project in cycle 5, then we're going to be programming our monies, new capacity monies, in year 2 of the cycle 5 ask. And you guys can either reject our RTIPs or not.
Can you repeat that, please, Rich?
So if our new capacity is in the last 2 years of the STIP, which is what, 29, 30, 30, 31?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to use that capacity to try to secure a cycle 5 SB1 grant in 8-9, which year 2 of SB1 cycle 5, I believe, is 28, 29.
26, 27.
We would put our new capacity of the 2026 STIP into, call it, is that year 3 of this 2026 STIP? We'd be putting it into year 3 of the 2026 STIP. We'd be applying under cycle 5. And if we're not successful, then we would have, if we're not successful, we got to go with what the guidelines say. But you would at least entertain our RTIPs, moving the new capacity into 28, 29 so that we can compete for an SB1 cycle 5 grant.
So Rich, is it because the next cycle of SB1 will cover 27, 28, 28, 29, correct?
Right.
Okay.
cycle 5.
So,
So he's
Yeah.
saying 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I'm a visual, so I'm writing this all down.
Okay, yeah. So I'm saying, yeah, your 4, your 5 capacity, because I mean, that's our, we can't use STIP for cost increases, so we're trying to use
No,
our
you
STIP.
can use it for cost. Well, that's the goal of the RTIP, is to capture your cost increases on existing projects, right? So
Or in the case of counties that don't have local sales tax, need and required to bring in match money under one of the SB1 programs like TSIP. We're putting that money in 28, 29, and we're gonna say we're coming in for cycle 5, and we're gonna wait for you to tell us that we can't.
trying to understand why I would say you can't, because if cycle 5 is 27, 28, 28, 29, and you're proposing a project in the 3rd year of the STIP for the following cycle, what would be the issue there?
I guess it's just that it's you guys managing your capacity, because all the new capacity is in year 4 and 5.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's just a challenge of the STIP, right? That's just a challenge of the STIP and its limited capacity, unfortunately. And then continuing to borrow in advance, we are going to get to a situation, unfortunately, where there isn't going to be sufficient cash to support little, if anything. So
I think in general, the next cycle, cycle 6 of the SB1 is gonna match up better with the STIP with the capacity in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is the issue that they're pointing out. So, but you're saying, yes, that's true, but then you have projects sitting for too long.
I just, yeah, but I guess, yeah, but I guess I'm not seeing an issue with the projects being in 28, 29. I know that there's no cash.
Okay, so
There-
so that's the 3rd year
Yeah,
of the STIP.
yeah. Because the SB1 cycle is 27, 28, and 28, 29. If we have 5 years, 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29, 29, 30, 30, 31, you can program for the next, so you can program a project that has SB1 funds you can attempt to program it in 26, well, the first few years of the STIP to try to align it with your awarded project that would be new in the STIP. But also, if you have a project that has not been awarded SB1 funds yet, you could put that project in your RTIP as an uncommitted fund source because you don't have the funds yet. And you could place it in 27, 28, or 28, 29, wherever it is you need your project to be. We'll just have to note that because the fund estimate has very little capacity, it's going to be difficult for me particularly to manage all of the proposals.
Of course, and I think the lesson, right, that Jose Luis raised, don't bring it into 27, 28, because if you do, you're going to be like what we were just faced with here at SLOCOG. We didn't get the award, thereby it's the same kind of scenario, but with the 2024 STIP.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. So I would say the first year of an SB1 cycle project would be a challenge if you're trying
that's a risk, high risk in terms of programming.
In terms of programming right now, yes, only because of limited capacity. I will say that in previous STIPs, the programming doesn't always add up, and we do try to do advanced allocations, but right now, again, we're very restricted and limited because of the cash availability within the fund estimate within the first 3 years of the STIP itself. So that is what's causing, that is going to be what causes cash challenges when it comes to programming. We went a little off topic, but
Yeah,
Sorry about
are we,
there's a couple questions.
okay. Yeah, let's go.
Did Vanessa get her questions answered? I guess is the.
I did. Can you still hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
I did get my questions answered. So I guess that the last 2 years of the STIP, it seems like we would just have to find some other kind of uncommitted fund source to plug into our funding plan, such as federal discretionary. That's understood. I still think that should probably be identified in the guidelines.
Yeah,
That you know that you can't identify SB1 in the last in a cycle beyond the upcoming cycle, basically.
yeah, I'll make it clear.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay,
Ready for questions?
yep.
Okay, so Rick asked if you proposed SB1 funding in the 5th year, you would have 2 cycles. So let it go to the cycle that covers the proposed year.
Read that. Oh, I can actually read the comments,
Oh,
Ken.
Rick raised his hand, so maybe.
Oh, go ahead, Rick. Oh, wait, I keep saying go ahead, but
Okay.
Randy needs to unmute.
I was just sort of piping into the whole discussion that was on the SB1 and now with the understanding that you wouldn't want SB1 funded in the last 2 years, that really wouldn't apply. It seems like that would apply for the federal funds. So, but I think the language for the federal funds works for that. So
Okay.
I think I think it's been resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then another question is, could this sentence in the first paragraph say, with the adoption of subsequent programming cycles for these programs, instead of saying next programming cycle, subsequent would cover outer year cycles in these programs?
So that's a challenge. We don't want to cover outer years. We only want to focus on the upcoming SB1 cycle only.
It was from anonymous. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, I hope that helps. Go ahead. Randy.
Some of them are unmuted and some of them aren't, but now he is.
Still.
Okay, Sarkis, you are unmuted and you may go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So that last part is a little concerning because some agencies are looking at like 5 or 10 year periods for programming and trying to secure funding. So if you're not able to use RTIP in the last 2 years and then line it up with the whatever SB1 cycles line up in the same year, that's a little bit hard for us, if I'm understanding that correctly.
Can you help me understand a little bit more? So are you saying that the SB1 language and the federal language is gonna make it difficult?
That last comment you made where, okay, so let's look at the 2026 STIP, and the last 2 years are 2930 and 3031. So that lines up perfectly with cycle 6. Are you saying that I can program RTIP to a project within those 2 fiscal years, or I cannot, if I'm going to be seeking SB1 funding?
No, you'll seek those cycles during the 2028 STIP. Because 29 and 30 are not wait, ask your question again.
So
Sorry.
if I want to pursue a project in SB1 cycle 6 in fiscal year 2930, I'd like to program the funds in the 2026 STIP because then they're in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you'd have a lot of regions that just would not be programming RTIP at all. I mean, we'd be handcuffed.
Yeah, so you guys are just saying that because the revenue is declining so much and we have capacity in the last 2 years only at this point.
Yes.
You're
So
wanting
I'm trying to be respectful of the CTC's capacity and knowing that the last 2 years are the new capacity, but then the last 2 years are lined up with not the subsequent cycle or the current upcoming cycle will be cycle 6.
And also it'd be hard to try to program in the 2028 STIP because the programming capacity wouldn't be in the first 2 or 3 years of that STIP.
Yes.
yeah.
And we were thankful and the fact that we were able to use RTIP as a match for some of the SB1 programs. So that's another element to it, is the matching ability.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. Did you change this language from the guidelines before? I mean, was this a problem before?
No. So the SB1 language it's the same. It's the same. No changes were made to the SB1 language at all.
I guess I hear that, but it was a verbal comment that was made that you guys would limit the ability to us based on whatever the cycle is within the STIP period. So if you're not gonna add that to the guidelines, I guess it's not a problem, but if it's gonna be added, then that could be a challenge.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. I hear you, Sarkis. Yeah. So in looking at timing for the 2026 STIP, the next cycle for SB1 is cycle 5. So that would be the only cycle that we would be open to programming based on the language that we have in the STIP and has been in the STIP for a bit. I'm actually really, I'm really glad we're having this conversation because I didn't realize.
Yeah,
Is
I think, and if I could, don't look at it as us parking money in year 4 and 5. It's a 5-year STIP period, and we happen to have multiple grant programs out there. In the case of what Sarkis is describing, his happens to be in cycle 6, and it's a very legitimate, uncommitted funding approach to pursue within the 5-year STIP period. We're not parking the money.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. That was really helpful. Okay. I need.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be a pain, but it's also, a lot of it is our regional projects, and whenever they're ready to, we're not trying to, like Rach said, if we know that the new capacity in the STIP is in the last 2 years of the STIP, but it's also not the next SB1 cycle. So we're trying to balance a lot of things on our end.
Yeah. No, that's understandable. And I didn't think about that. So,
Kenneth Cow has his hand up. I don't know if he has anything.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. Kenny, go ahead and, oh, I need to not say that because is he unmuted now?
I did.
Okay.
I'm here.
Hi, Kenny.
Thank you all. So we did experience this last in 2024 for San Mateo, actually. So we had tried to program something out in year 4 and year 5 because they were applying for cycle 5, not cycle 4 at the time. And that's why, of course you caught it, which was great, and said that we couldn't do it. And that was the issue for us as well. Is like we knew the programming capacity was out in year 4 and year 5, but we wanted to capture that. And so I think this was an issue for us. I'm glad that people are kind of catching it and thinking about it more because for me, it's like a catch-22, right? We want to be good planners and look ahead and see like, okay, the funding is in year 4 and year 5. So let's program funds out there, not park it because we are very committed to applying for those funds. Maybe not the next cycle, but the next cycle out.
Right.
And part of the issue, of course, is that the STIP and the SB1 programs aren't aligned, right? If the SB1 programs were 4 years, and see, the STIP was 4 years or whatever, then it would be a little easier. But because they're 2 years versus 5 years, there is that gap. And so we're trying to. I feel like we're trying to help you manage your capacity because we don't also want to park money out in year 2 or year 3, and then unnecessarily hold that if we don't get the SB1 funds. In this case, we're actually planning ahead. So I would definitely, propose that CTC consider allowing for some of that advanced programming out in year 4, year 5, so that we are using our capacity in the year that it's available, rather than kind of, having you move those monies around later. If we were to get funds and, do a last minute dash to program those uncommitted funds or those RTIP funds.
I appreciate you saying that because as I was going through just adding federal discretionary programs and going through the process of like, okay, how can we make this date work? Given all the statutory limitations and whatnot, I was trying to figure out a way to limit, say, STIP amendments that would need to come through to delete stuff, right? And so everything that you guys are saying would actually help eliminate all of that, like you mentioned, Kenny. So, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm gonna add some language and then, yeah, I feel pretty good with this slide. Is there any more questions?
Shelley has a suggestion.
Okay,
She said, I think we like the language about uncommitted funding and the specific guidelines, pink item from the June commission meeting.
okay. I'm gonna read that one.
Casey,
Yes.
can I ask to be muted, please?
What do you say?
That you are muted? You want to be muted?
I'd like to be muted again. Thank you.
Yeah.
I support Sarkis being muted.
Agreed.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next slide because we're running out of time, but I'm really glad we had this conversation. Any changes I do make, you guys will know about it before it becomes final at the August commission meeting. It won't be a surprise. I will share everything. So, and I will allow feedback coming back and forth. So it's not going to just be like, this is what I want, and I'm going to have it at the meeting. I'm going to have a lot of correspondence with you back and forth, and we will figure out how we will do that. So in the meantime, I'm going to move on to the next slide. If everyone is okay with that. Okay, this one I feel like we can skip, or maybe not. This is a little hard in the eyes, apologies, but this is section 17. Now, if we look at the draft guidelines that were presented at the June meeting, this section 17 is a part of the permanent guidelines. And what I'm doing here is just showing you that I want to remove the uncommitted funds. Let me backtrack. Section 17 has always been about committed funds. When the draft guidelines were brought forward in June, we added uncommitted funds, and then we also added the federal discretionary language. What I'm doing here and what I'm showing you is fully eliminating anything that mentions uncommitted funding because it's all now placed in the specific guidelines. And then in going through this language, it talks about, let's see, like this last bullet point, this was added from the draft guidelines. This is the SB1 language. I'm eliminating that because the focus is the goal is to keep all uncommitted information in the specific guidelines and all committed here in section 17. There is language in here I am proposing to delete, but this is where I need your guys' help to let me know if it's a bad idea. In this case, if we look at, I can't zoom in, huh? If we look at if we look at this bullet right here, and it talks about 4 federal discretionary funds, it provides examples of what federal approval would look like when it comes to accelerated project delivery and development. So like, for example, in the case of small starts, it gives you an example of what a commitment would look like. It also gives you an example of what a new starts would look like. And I don't know if that small starts and new starts information is helpful to you guys. Also, this language here, it says as long as the funding, excluding STIP funding, is committed to the project. So this section here is talking about federal funds needing to be committed, and I'm eliminating that. So any questions on here? Any suggestions? And again, I'm sorry, it's rough on the eyes. It should be, is this, yeah, bold and outlined. No, okay. Okay. Section 48. If we look down at the very bottom, there's this section here in bold. This is where I know it was talked about at the last workshop, adding the project ID number in the RTP. Also, I'm going to add in there a page number. So not only are we going to attempt to add our regional transportation plan or RTP project number, if you can also add the page number, which the language will be updated. Apologies that it's not. The reason we're asking for this information is because last cycle during the 2024 STIP, I had to assign one individual to verify all of the projects in the RTIPs and confirm that they align with their RTP. And that was a full-time job for that one individual person, which I'm the only STIP person, so I get a lot of help from everyone here at the commission. And in the past, it has been very difficult for us to confirm your projects are in an RTP. So providing us with a project number or at least, the page in which your project is located in your RTP would be extremely helpful for CTC staff.
No questions.
Okay. Next slide. Okay. So this is the 2026 STIP timeline. Let's see, the commissioners will adopt the guidelines and the STIP fund estimate at our next commission meeting on August 14th and 15th. Caltrans will identify their state highway needs on September 15th. That is in statute. Caltrans will release their draft ITIP on October 15th. This is also in statute. We're going to have the ITIP hearings, the North and South, on October 30th and November 7th. The North and South dates and locations will be provided within the next coming months, sooner rather than later. And then our tips and the final ITIP is submitted to the commission by December 15th. This is a statutory deadline. Following the STIP hearings in the North and the South. And then once we have our RTIPs and the ITIP, commission staff then publishes staff recommendations, which are required by statute to be published at least 20 days before the commission adopts the following STIP, which will occur on March 19th or 20th, 2026. Any questions on this slide? Okay, so just some RTIP reminders. Okay, so the first one is just a reminder that capturing cost escalations on existing projects is a requirement within the STIP, sections 52 and 56. So this just means if you have a project that's committed in the STIP and there are cost increases, we want to make sure that we capture those cost increases in your RTIP to ensure that we're capturing proper programming capacity for the STIP's needs. Number two, if an increase is proposed on an existing project, it cannot be backfilled. It cannot be to backfill other non-STIP funds previously committed to the project, which have already been or in the future will be redirected to non-capital activities. That is in section 31 of the guidelines. Reminder number 3 is just current year projects cannot be increased, decreased, or deleted. That just means when you're working on your 2026 RTIP, and our first year is fiscal year 26-27. If you have a project in current year 25-26, that project cannot be modified in your RTIP. Number 4, it's just a reminder to please add your RTIP, and I'll modify this in the guidelines again, but add your RTIP project number or the page number so that we can easily locate your project in an RTP.
And the page number
or the page number. Yeah. And that'll be updated in the guidelines to say the page number or the project number.
That's what it says.
Is that what it says now?
From
Oh,
the
okay.
draft in June.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It didn't change. Yeah. So I need to put it back to what the draft was. Yeah. And then Jose Luis, I'll get you after I do number 5. Then reminder number 5 is just a reminder that the fact sheets, which will be posted on time this year, do need to comply with state and federal web accessibility laws and standards. So if you can please ensure that those are remediated before they come to the commission, please. And Jose Luis, did you want to?
Wasn't sure if you guys caught that, but it looks like there's a typo on bullet 4. It's your regional transportation plan. Project.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Your RTIP. And then I think there might be a second.
Say on bullet point 2, Casey, I'm a little perplexed why, if we're in a new STIP cycle, that we can't re-examine the method of how we are delivering the project budget. And if your reference is if it's an increase in, if there's an increase proposed on an existing project, an increase in the STIP amount, or
Yeah,
an increase due to,
so if you have a cost increase to a project that is currently in the STIP, right? So a project that's programmed, it has not received an allocation, there's a cost increase. The cost increase cannot be proposed on what it says in on number 2. Does that make sense?
so if it's within the existing project budget that you have on record from our last EPPR filing, and we want to simply increase STIP and say reduce federal for whatever strategic reason or, you know, CIP management reason we have on our end, you'd entertain that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is, there's no change to the guidelines. This has already been here. We're just strictly saying it can't be to backfill non-STIP funds that were previously committed to the project. We also want to make sure that you're not redirecting non-capital activities as well. So yeah, your example is fine. It's very common to switch funds around. It's very normal.
Yeah.
Your example is very common.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Jose Luis.
So sorry, I'm gonna belabor the point. So let's say I've got a capital project in the STIP and I have, I don't know, let's say 20 million of STIP funds on it and like 10 million of local. And in my previous phase, like maybe it's design or something, I ended up having to spend a bunch more local funds on that. If I go and increase my STIP funds and decrease my local funds were spent on like environmental design. That's a non-capital activity, so I can't do that. Or what do you, when you say non-capital activities, it means not construction activities, or what does that mean? Am I coming through okay?
I was muted. Non-capital activities means more like support costs. So we're not talking about, you know, your work that you're completing in environmental design, right? We're talking about like support costs.
Okay.
Overhead activities.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Q&A.
Okay.
Excuse me. Page numbers are sufficient if we don't have actual project numbers for each project within our RTP.
Yes.
That was anonymous, so I'm not sure if it was asked.
Yes, and that language will be reflected in the final guidelines. It was actually reflected in the draft guidelines that were presented at the draft at the June meeting. So it will be changed back. It says the project's identification or page number as reflected in the RTP. Okay, I'll go ahead and proceed to the next slide if there's no more questions. And there we go. Look at that. That concludes the presentation. Any further questions or comments? Oops.
Anybody yet?
Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing and I'll just leave it up for a couple more minutes to see if anyone has any questions or comments. We also have the budgets team still on the call if anyone has any questions about the fund estimate. Okay. Great. Well then, thank you everyone so much for participating today. Again, I will modify the language and get it sent out to everyone and figure out how we're going to do the next steps before the guidelines are officially adopted in August. So I will keep everyone in the loop and thank you again for participating. Yeah, I learned a lot today, so thank you. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.